In the creatively bankrupt state that Hollywood has been in for years now, it's not really a surprise that they will try to turn anything they can into a franchise. It's one of the reasons that we see so many different prequels and sequels and spin-offs of various IPs. And on occasion, even when it's not something anyone was asking for, on occasion you can find a gem in there. For instance, Penguin. I don't know if anyone was begging for or asking for a Penguin spinoff after they saw The Batman, but through the first couple episodes, Colin Farrell's Penguin show is fucking awesome. However, there are some things that shouldn't have sequels, definitively should not have a sequel, and Joker was one of those things. All the way back in 2019, when Joker blew up at the box office, over $1 billion, the biggest R-rated movie of all time, until Deadpool and Wolverine recently dethroned it. With all the praise that that movie received from virtually everyone who watched it, there was one thing that I continued to say, and I've said it for 5 years. Don't get caught up in the box office and do a sequel for this movie, because quite frankly, it might do a lot of damage to the first one, because part of the thing that did make the first Joker so special was some of the ambiguity, some of the different arguments you could have with people about what really was going on. What are you supposed to take away from this movie? And when you make a sequel and start defining some of those things, it might not turn out very well, and you might end up undoing a lot of the things that people loved about the first movie. Well, Warner Brothers, despite Todd Phillips saying he didn't want to make another one, despite Joaquin Phoenix saying he didn't want to make another one, they backed up the Brinks truck, and Joker 2 went into development. Well, now that it's finally hitting theaters, it looks like, who could have predicted that this is going to be a massive disaster? Joker, Folie à Deux, has a message for fans: go fuck yourselves. Kudos to this follow-up to the $1 billion grossing hit for delivering something more than a carbon copy of the original, but who exactly is this musical sequel for? I did finally go out and watch it yesterday on Thursday night because I really wanted to judge for myself and see what it was, and I gotta say, this is a mistake. They should not have made this movie, and you can tell they didn't want to just remake the first one again. They wanted to do something different, and I think the decisions they decided to make were the wrong ones. Look at the reviews right now. Both the critics and the audience very unified right now in being disappointed with the sequel, with the follow-up to Joker. And I think there's a handful of ways that people are going to be turned off when you watch this movie. One is the musical aspect of it. This is not a musical. That's not what it is. There's a lot of music in it, but I would not define it as a musical because, quite frankly, the vast majority of the music, it's them singing songs that you might sound familiar, but it's not there to push dialogue or the plot or anything like that. It's literally just there. I would say 3/4 of the music in this is not really telling you a story. It's more just a little aside. Hey, look, another Joker hallucination, another Joker vision, another Joker fantasy, as opposed to it actually being used to learn things about the characters or push the plot forward. In a musical, you're talking through the music. That's what you witness. There's very little of that in this movie. And I don't want to spoil it for people that do want to watch, but it is very clear that they wanted to undo some of the things that they did in the first Joker, that they really wanted to find what was going on with Arthur Fleck at this time, despite the fact that at the end of the first movie, it looked like he truly had embraced the role of the Joker, not so much when we start this movie. And you think maybe he will again, and they kind of subvert you there as well. And I honestly don't know if Joker was a fuck you to fans who liked the first one from Todd Phillips, or whether it was just as simple as, hey, I don't want to remake the same thing. I want to do something very, very different. I want to subvert people's expectations, and this is what we end up with. And when you do look at the box office right now, it is crumbling for Warner Brothers, because despite initial expectations and initial projections, putting this at over $100 million domestically opening weekend, that has been cut in half. Right now, it's being estimated to make around 50 to 60 million, somewhere in that frame domestically. Internationally, it looks like it's tracking a little bit better. But we might be looking at something that opens to half of what the first Joker made in its opening weekend. And I do not think it's going to have good word of mouth. I don't think you're going to see great holds. I think you're going to see the opposite. The majority of people right now, regardless of whether they wanted a sequel or didn't want a sequel, they are very disappointed with what they're seeing out of Joker 2. And the truth is, this is such a Warner Brothers thing to do. Warner Brothers who didn't really believe in the first Joker, right? They had other financiers come in and finance about half the movie, which, hey, great, but that also means half the profits go to them as well. So in what should have been a $400 million profit to Warner Brothers, when you factor in the $55 million budget, probably double that again for marketing, and of course, the cut to the box office gets, you still should have got like a $400 million payday from that. Instead, Warner Brothers was left with probably around $200 million because of the other financiers they had involved. So they took that $200 million and they said, hey, we're giving you a shit ton of money. Joker 2 is a $200 million budget film. I don't know why. I don't know for what reason, but it is. And now you're looking at a movie that might not even break even for you. This is so typical for Warner Brothers, something that ends up blowing up in their face in this way. There is a difference between shows or movies or spinoffs or whatever that no one was asking for versus shows or spinoffs or movies that should not happen. And I think Joker is absolutely one of those movies that did not need a follow-up, that it was better left up to everyone's imagination what exactly was happening. How did this happen? What did this mean? And where do you go from here? Instead, Warner Brothers saw that money. They wanted to double down and convince Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix to do it. And here we are, what looks like they might have a disaster on their hands. And I think some of the performances are great. I think Joaquin Phoenix does an incredible job. I wouldn't even say it's like a poorly directed or made film or anything like that. I just think they made the wrong choices in trying to undo and explain some of the things that were happening in the first movie. And now the vast majority of people, whether they be critics or general members of the audiences, they are pushing back because they are highly disappointed. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.